Hello everyone, my name is Kimberly Kaiser, and for my video presentation, I will be discussing NGOs' roles in disasters. First, it is necessary to determine what an NGO is. The term NGO as a group is hard to classify. Even scholars use a variety of different terminology to depict them. They have varied missions, forms, configurations, values, and their work is shaped by the variety of countries and settings in which they operate. NGOs are varied and thus defy generalization. They have been called by varied terms such as NGO, nonprofit, civil society, third sector, grassroots, charitable sector, to name a few. While there has been debate about its definition, a relatively respected one defines NGOs as self-governing, private, not-for-profit organizations that are geared to improving the quality of life for disadvantaged people. Salmon and Anhar identify 6 characteristics of NGOs: that they are formally organized, private, nonprofit distributing, self-governing, substantially voluntary, and public. While NGOs differ in a great many ways from each other, a number of common traits are generally shared among them, including first, the premium they place on the importance of independence and neutrality. Generally, NGOs have a decentralized organizational structure and are highly practice-oriented. Furthermore, they tend to be extremely mission-oriented and committed to achieving their organizational objectives, being monitored by their own code of conduct. Members often share a common background, be it religion, geography, ethnicity, or technical training and knowledge. They also have a mission that is not commercial orientation, but primarily concentrates on social, cultural, educational, and other similar types of areas. All NGOs have a role in disasters, whether or not they have a specified or clear disaster mission. Meals on Wheels is an example of an NGO without a disaster-based mission that generally provides non-perishable foodstuffs to its participants. During a disaster, this NGO can be expanded to utilize its pre-established mechanisms to provide food to disaster victims. Similarly, homeless shelters are another example of an NGO without a disaster-based mission, but in the wake of disasters can provide additional beds to help shelter those who need assistance. The Salvation Army Disaster Services Program, on the other hand, is an NGO with a clear disaster mission that provides food, clothing, shelter, and emotional support in times of disaster. Some of the common roles NGOs provide in disaster are the collection and distribution of food, water, clothing, and additional supplies. They help provide and construct shelter for disaster victims. They assist with the provision of disaster response and recovery logistics. They administer first aid and assist with the distribution of medical supplies. They facilitate and provide transportation, counseling services, and debris removal, while helping to set up communication networks between responding organizations. The International Federation of the Red Cross is one of the most well-known and influential NGOs that carries out relief operations to assist disaster victims in combination with their development work. They focus on 4 main areas: the promotion of humanitarian values, disaster response, disaster preparedness, and health and community care. Disaster response continues to represent the largest portion of the International Federation's work, with assistance provided to around 30 million people annually for refugees to victims of natural disaster. The Red Cross aims to respond to disasters as rapidly and effectively as possible by mobilizing its resources and using its networks to counter the initial effects of disasters and meet the needs of the affected community. Its primary objectives are to rescue victims from immediate danger and to ensure the stabilization of the physical and emotional conditions of survivors, recover the dead, and restore essential services like water and power. The general timeframe of response activities ranges from 1 month to 6 months and is composed of a search and rescue phase in the immediate aftermath of a disaster, followed by a medium-term phase devotion to stabilization. The Red Cross also works to promote preparedness by utilizing risk reduction measures. These measures are meant to strengthen preparedness and capacities of communities, to promote activities and actions that would mitigate the adverse effects of hazards. They also work to protect their development projects from the impact of disasters. They build safer and resilient communities, and they also use preparedness tools like early warning systems and vulnerability capacity assessments. There are thousands of NGOs that assist with disasters, but here are a few more with disaster-specific missions. The United Methodist Committee on Relief is one which offers disaster preparedness training. They provide essential supplies and care in the immediate aftermath of disasters. They support long-term rebuilding efforts and assist communities as they adapt. The Lutheran Disaster Response is another NGO that seeks to provide emotional and spiritual support for long-term recovery. They help families obtain grants to rebuild homes and get them back on their feet. And they also coordinate construction teams that assist in rebuilding and recovery. Catholic Charities is also another NGO active in disaster. NGOs have several advantages. First, they are often local and can mobilize rapidly. They have buildings which can be used to provide shelter and distribute supplies. Secondly, they may already have positive pre-established relationships with community leaders and groups that may be in need of additional support, like the elderly and those with disabilities. Unlike the government, NGOs tend to be more innovative and flexible and less bound by bureaucratic red tape. Lastly, NGOs have becoming increasingly more professionalized and have well-trained and specialized personnel on hand to provide assistance. Alternatively, NGOs also have several disadvantages, such as their funding and resource constraints. They are dependent on donations and fundraising campaigns for funds. Often, duplication of services can be a problem if NGOs are not coordinated with one another and other responding entities. Additionally, there can be problems of accountability, since NGOs are accountable to multiple constituents. Also, NGOs have been accused of being more self-interested and more worried about organizational survival than providing assistance to victims. However, in conclusion, NGOs are undoubtedly key players in disasters. They often fill response gaps left by traditional emergency management organizations. They generally improve government's abilities to address victims' needs. They're involved in all 4 phases of emergency management. They reduce or minimize the incidence of disease and disability while stabilizing public health conditions. They assist in the reconstruction and repair of infrastructure that has been damaged or destroyed. They protect displaced populations and provide for the safe return once the emergency has passed. In all, they have improved the efficacy and efficiency of emergency management operation at all levels. There are thousands of NGOs, and their numbers and roles in disasters continue to grow. Thus, it is essential that emergency managers include and incorporate NGOs in their emergency operation plans, and that NGOs continue to improve coordination among themselves by strengthening collaborations like the voluntary organizations active in disasters, so they reduce service duplications and improve their efforts to provide assistance to